Goenchi Mati literally means Goan earth, or Goan soil. And obviously, when mining, we're essentially taking out our Goan soil.
The name captured my attention. The soil of Goa, and I'm very passionately Goan. Nothing abroad can compensate for the feel of Goa.
I am brought up in Goa, and I've lived here all my life. I believe that we have been sleeping for the past many years. So now it's like really time to wake up and take back our Goa. That is why I want to support this movement.
Theft is one of our great issues. Stealing from the people, it's stealing from my children and their children. So there is a generational theft happening, and we are simply not aware of it. One of the most powerful ideas in the Goenchi Mati movement is that it is the root of all the corruption. It has created a rot in the system that if we do not act now will take another century easily to remove. Goans in general are honest people, and it is just because of this one issue that the image of the entire populace is tarnished for the profit to a very few people.
What we are trying to do in this campaign is something that has never been done before. My name is Claude Alvarez, and I have been working with Goa Foundation now for nearly 30 years. It's one of the oldest organizations in the state of Goa. It's very well known for environment protection work. But the government of Goa knows that if it does something which is outside the framework of environment law, then the Goa Foundation would take it to court. We have done whatever we could with a sincere heart, using intelligence. What had happened in the state of Goa is the mining companies reached a period when even the low-grade ore began to command an atrocious price in the international market. And this was all because of the Chinese Olympic Games held in 2008 in China. For that, they were willing to go to any place on the earth, pay any price, and get whatever quantity of ore was available in the market. So the price of ore from $15 a ton rose to $150 per ton, 15 to 150. Now, when that started happening in 2004, all hell broke loose. We had a rush which is almost akin to the gold rushes that we have heard of in the United States and so many other countries. Exactly the same thing happened here. The mining companies who had access to mining leases began to plunder whatever they could. Company may have been given permission to mine 50,000 tons, they removed 100,000 tons. So there's an illegality and there's theft involved. There was nobody who was willing to take a stand on behalf of any citizen who was affected by mining or who felt that something wrong was taking place. So that's when the central government decided to set up the MB Shah Commission. The Shah Commission came to Goa, they sat, they listened to everybody, we gave them all the evidence that we had collected. They came to the conclusion that there was every possible illegality that you could conceive of in mining in the state of Goa. So within 10 days, we were in the Supreme Court and everything came to a halt. Chori hua hai. A theft has taken place. Now you can say, why should an ordinary citizen really bother about this? Because the owners of natural resources are the people of the state. There are no mine owners. He is given a right to extract the ore which belongs to the state and belongs to the people of the state. He doesn't own any of the ore on the lease. He is not really an owner, he is a lessee. Under that right now, he has done a lot of mischief. He has done a lot of theft from the pockets of each and every Goan in the state. Whether he is a poor man or a rich man, whether he's Hindu, Christian or Muslim, and if the public is not willing to challenge this, then I think anything will happen in this country and it will not be cured.
It's at a magnitude of which I cannot imagine. The kind of illegalities that have gone into it.
It's just really overwhelming to see the kind of blatant robbery as such, that's taking place. And it's a lot of numbers, it's big. The scale of a single human being to the scale of corruption, this is enormous.
Huge wealth gap, and main reason for it, like the ownership was being denied to the people.
If you look at the total turnover of mining in the last 8 years of mining, that is from 2004 to 2012, the total turnover in mining was something like 87,000 crores. What the state government got, what we got, was something like 2,000 crores. That is less than 5% of the value of the ore. Now this is an absurdity. If I have a house to sell and I ask an intermediary to sell it and he sells it and he keeps 95% and gives me 5%, I think there would be a revolution. I mean, people would be furious. You can't do a thing like this. But this is exactly what happened. After looting the public, after cheating them, after doing illegal mining for 5 years, the Goa government then calls these people back and gives them the leases once again, free of cost, hands over 88 leases, which we have calculated works out to actually a grant to these companies. So these two figures, that is the figure of the ore that has now been gifted to the mining companies, plus the amount that is to be recovered from them over the last 5 years of illegal mining, that together comes up to 1,44,000 crore. And that is what we are saying is belongs to the people of the state. It is in the wrong hands today. So we put that figure down as a figure that is legally, morally recoverable from the mining companies. Or Chor 144.
The Ore Chor 144 campaign is intended to tell people about the loss, to get them enraged about the loss and to motivate them to do something to get politicians who will do the right thing. We have challenged this lease renewal in the Supreme Court, but the people of Goa really need to stand up and say enough is enough. It's just unfair, unethical, immoral what's going on. So what we're trying to do immediately is get the leases cancelled. It's really important for a number of reasons. The first thing is we've given the leases to the same people who have conducted illegal mining for 5 years, and there are a whole number of other illegalities they've committed. If a mining company is consistently flouting the law, how can they be given a renewal? It makes no sense. We need to have a situation where a lot of vested interests are not there. We need to make sure that our system starts with a clean slate.
There's an election coming. So we put these two together and we said that let's have a campaign where we try to convince every Goan that this is a right cause and a just cause. You see, it's not a question of the Goa Foundation doing this in the court. We can get something established legally. But after that, to get it established on the ground, people must recognize, yes, what these people are saying is correct. What the Supreme Court is saying is correct. We own the ore. Now we are going to take action. This is the highest court in the land. This is the law of the land. And I want you to organize your public policy in such a way that it reflects my ownership of these public resources. The moment the leases were cancelled, they would come up for auction. And instead of being given free for 80,000 crore, they would now produce probably 4 times that amount. That's a huge amount of money. That is money which is actually the price of the ore which has been removed from the ground, which is like your gold, your asset, and therefore it has to be kept away.
For people to live happily with each other and to feel contentment in life, they need to feel that they're not being cheated, that what is rightfully their legacy, they're getting a fair share of it. And that's what is a primary part of this movement.
All of us who love Goa so much, we should be doing something for Goa, not just having it in our hearts. Why isn't Goa moving ahead the way it should? What can we do to let it grow to its fullness?
Goa has the potential, Goans have the spirit, and that is what draws me to this movement, truly.
Our argument is this: minerals are owned by the state as a trustee on behalf of everybody. They're essentially commonly owned. Mining is essentially the sale of a mineral. We owned it. After mining, we no longer own it. So obviously, we have to get compensation which is equivalent to its value.
That's where the Supreme Court's wisdom came in, because the Supreme Court said, look here, if this wealth is going to be taken out in 9 years, what's going to be there for the next generation that's coming? Why should only one generation be allowed to remove all the ore? So that's when they came up with the concept of intergenerational equity. And that's when we discovered the whole discussion on permanent funds, how funds from the sale of natural resources should not really be spent on consumption, but should be kept safely. Just like you have kept the ore in the ground, now you get the income that you have got from the sale of the ore, but you keep it as an asset in some other form. The state of Goa is the first state in the Indian Union to have a permanent fund. No other state has got a permanent fund today. Because of the Supreme Court judgment, the Goa government has been forced to set up the fund. The fund is already set up. At least for the future, 10% of whatever income comes from ore is going to be set aside for the children of the present generation of Goans and their children and their children.
If we can make the movement start in Goa, which is iron ore being a big commodity, we have a future to give to the children. If our children don't have clean water to drink, if they don't have fresh air to breathe, if they've got no minerals in the soil that they can make business off of, there is no future. What is there to love?
The idea of a permanent fund may be new for India, but it is a standard procedure for many countries who deal with the sale of their natural resources. Now, Norway is the best example. They have got a permanent fund of something like 900 billion US dollars, which is what we should have had. We don't have it today. We're trying to get it by the Outshore 144 campaign. But basically, it's the same type of money which they were selling oil, we were selling ore. But they were wise enough to put it into a permanent fund, so it's remained.
The immediate other goal is to get the permanent fund in proper shape. Already over 50 of these funds exist around the planet, but this is the first time it's happening in India, so it's a first for India. We are suggesting that we have to capture the entire value, put it into a permanent fund. This money will get protected, it's professionally managed.
They are owned by the state on behalf of the people. The state cannot interfere or tamper or use those funds or misuse them for any purpose. They are insulated from the budget. After all, what is government? Government is only the people. So the citizens can ask questions, they can challenge.
It will actually create a very sustainable economic model for the world to follow and to see, okay, this is how we could actually build a permanent fund, which comes from inherited wealth and can then turn into something that will remain for generations to come.
permanent funds do not die. They survive because they generate interest, and that interest is invariably used to maintain the original value of the capital. So the value of the fund remains the same, and the remaining 3 to 4% you give it as a basic income to all citizens of the state. Because the present generation must also get something from the income, and certainly the future generations as well. So then the whole of society begins to take active part in the way the fund is organized, it's run, and what it achieves.
The last part of it is the citizens' dividend. It's a commons dividend. After the vote, the citizens' dividend will be the second true sign of equality in Goa. It creates an actual link between the person and the mineral. It's just like a comunidad dividend, a right as a citizen.
It's a very transparent picture of the way your natural resources which you own are being handled. If the money goes to a permanent fund, where does the mining company have any money to bribe politicians? It comes to an end. Now, why was illegal mining officially permitted in Goa in the last 8 years? For the simple reason that if you are getting that much money in profits, you can always ensure that the politicians are kept happy and they don't interfere with your mining operations. It completely subverted democracy. We don't want that situation to come back.
So for Goa, what we are proposing is we follow intergenerational equity as a principle through and through. Make sure that we mine over a longer period of time so that the mineral is available to multiple generations. The second thing is we also need to restrict the amount of mining from an environmental angle. It actually truly brings about equality in today's time as well as equality with our children and future generations. This will dramatically change our social consciousness.
The Goenchi Mati initiative will help and bring about that justice, taking this great resource of the state and using it for the people, not just immediately but actually in perpetuity.
The Goenchi Mati resonates as a campaign to save the land. You know, it's the Goan land or the Bhumi.
All our mining belts are in the very thickly forested areas, and we have surface mining. So that is depleting acres and acres of land. It's a high time that we did something, and it should be regulated in a way that when people do indulge in mining, they restore the land back to its condition.
It's a mammoth environment problem. There are mines which were illegally running in wildlife sanctuaries. There are 750 million tons of mining dumps all across the state. It is estimated that 150 million tons can be sold. Restore these abandoned mines and quarries. You get rid of the environment problem of the dump, you've created employment, and this whole process gives you about an 8-9 year window before you have to start fresh mining again. Gives us a lot of time to think about what we really want to do as a state. Gives us breathing time to put all these ideas into place, solidify it, get the laws, get processes, all this in place to do it properly. For that we need to stop the renewals, Orchor 144. We have a solution that can work. It's fair to everybody. Mining will continue in a rational manner, in an environmentally safe manner. The mining companies will make profits, but not extraordinary. And it's a fair to all kind of a system. The implications of the fair to all system really transforms many other things and many things we really care about. Goa could remain green. Goa could have better governance. Corruption would have dropped dramatically. Our children would have a better future. All of this really comes from the Constitution, and our movement essentially is saying please implement the constitution. And we need to assert our rights. Now, how do we do that?
So we are telling people, this much money has been taken from your pockets. Please come out and tell the government that this was wrong, and please tell the government to have these leases cancelled. Now, Goans will say, how do we interact in this? But what you can do is, now that candidates within a few months will be coming to your doorstep, the first thing you can ask them is, what is your stand on the Goenchi Mati Permanent Fund? Are you in favor of it or not? And please remember that if you give me the wrong answer, you won't get my vote. Number 2, are you going to ask for these 88 leases to be cancelled if you are in the next government or not? And are you going to be with the thieves or are you going to be with the people of Goa?
Couple of decades in the future, and things can be great and things can be horrible depending on which path we choose. The losses are just unthinkably large. Leaving aside the damage to the environment and the corruption and the ongoing, the downstream problems all of that causes. The only way that we can actually enforce something like this is if the people take the power that is theirs. And over time, we expect to start demonstrations. So here are some of the things you can do. Firstly, please read up and volunteer. We really need volunteers. We're trying to use all kinds of mediums, from stickers and posters to trying to see if somebody would do a play, music, street theatre. We need everybody in the state of Goa to know about this. So please take the time out to understand this issue a little bit better and explain it to everybody you meet, to your family, to your friends, to the people you work with. Everybody needs to know about it.
That's what we want the campaign to be.
I support the Goenchi Mati Movement.
I support the Goenchi Mati Movement.
I support the Goenchi Mati Movement.
गोंयच्या मातयेक माझा फुल पाठिंबा आसा.
For the future today.
Please come ahead and join the movement.
Festa